Well, here we're looking at Qualcomm, and it's down about 8%, actually down a lot more than that on the day. But I wanted to examine this, and because I always think it's important to try to find out why these things start to break down. I think you can learn that you can sometimes avoid some big problems for you or your position. But to me, I think this one really is very apparent for those that watch for divergence here. Look at this driving higher, doing really, really well. Many years rallying up. You see it, just really having very nice movements. Okay, you see you see this last draw higher. Now you see a very easy little ABC kind of move, but then it starts to kind of drive higher. It looks very strong, and then people, wondering why you see this very dramatic move. But when you start to look at the divergence that's been going on, look at this. Divergence has been happening for weeks, and over the years. So when we start to see this breakdown, this is not very surprising. It's also coming back to some of the trend line that you saw prior here. You really get your initial bounce off that trend line. Now that we got to say here, okay, if we're getting the bounce off the trend line, we have to say, okay, what was the momentum there? Okay, so we got to say, is the momentum enough to really carry it to kind of do another high to the higher part of the regression channel? Only makes sense, right? So if we drop this into, say, a 60-minute chart, and we start to look at this bounce, here we can see that we were really seeing divergence on the 60-minute chart. Look at this. You see this big top forming, right? It goes through its correction, tries to rally back, starts to do pretty well, gets past from these ranges, right? But look at what's happening as it starts to get move up. You see that divergence still continuing here as prices start to come back. And then what you see here, when we go back into the daily, you see just the very simple fact that it comes back into a retracement. We just look at the retracement lines right from the major high. Okay, we see that prices exceed a little bit of the 61% retracement, but can't break too much more, and then falls back down. This is one that was a little tougher, I think, to really figure out, but you could see that long-term divergence on the weekly really should have warned you that this could start to break down and get more dramatic, because on the shorter term you don't see some of that kind of issues. You see the divergence here, it makes sense. You see a nice bounce back up. It's up over some of the support levels, so it can get tricky, but it really, what it does is it comes into the prior low levels of this last swing. And you also have to look at the prior move. What happened in the prior move? Did it have enough strength last time? No, it didn't. As a matter of fact, you see major divergence when it was hitting the same high here, and then what do you see? This very gap down, and then you see a lot of momentum, and then you see it try to come back. Barely anything there. You see it holding the 50-day moving average, breaks down. We see the divergence. We say, okay, it's going to snap back, but yeah, and it breaks back up, but not really big momentum. You're not seeing it, break above this. But this is where it gets a little, gets a little more tricky here. But overall, you still, from this kind of situation, you might want to step aside, or you'd be concerned of that it may not have the energy here, or might not be able to break to a new high, just based upon how it's been acting each time it was there.